In General Ulysses S. Grant, I believe we can all find the common experience, the moral fiber and strength of character that transcends space and time to serve as a model for the leaders we currently follow and those who will step forward to serve in our ever rapidly approaching future. But who was this man who brought an end to such a devastating and hopeless war, who healed the wounds of the North and South with such a wisdom, foresight, and kindness rarely shown among the generals of any time period, let alone an age of such bitter division as our 1860s? Well, in the words of our close friend and well-known ally, William Tecumseh Sherman, quote, "Grant is a mystery to me, and I believe he is a mystery unto himself."
The date is April 7th, 1865. Feeling now that General Lee's escape was utterly hopeless. On the 2nd of April, the 6th Corps broke through the lines at Petersburg, just southwest of the town, sending the entire Confederate Army en route. So by the morning of the 3rd, we found Petersburg totally empty. The Confederate Army in full retreat. It was my impression that Mr. Lee was trying to get around my left flank and down and incorporate his army in with that of General Joe Johnston not far south in North Carolina. But by the 7th, I was in the vicinity of Farmville, and I addressed a letter to General Lee as such. 7 April 1865. The results of last week must convince you of the hopelessness of further resistance on the part of the Army of Northern Virginia in this struggle. I feel that it is so, and regard it as my duty to shift from myself the responsibility of any further effusion of blood by asking of you the surrender of that portion of the Confederate States Army known as the Army of Northern Virginia. Signed, U.S. Grant. Early on the morning of the 8th, before leaving Farmville, I received the following communication from General Lee. April 7, 1865, Lieutenant General U.S. Grant. General, I have received your note of this date. Though not entertaining the opinion you express on the hopelessness of further resistance on the part of the Army of Northern Virginia, I reciprocate your desire to avoid useless effusion of blood, and therefore, before considering your proposition, ask the terms you will offer on condition of its surrender. To this, I immediately replied, morning of April 8th, 1865, to General R.E. Lee. General, your note of last evening, in reply to mine of same date, asking the condition on which I will accept the surrender of the Army of Northern Virginia, is just received. In reply, I would say that peace being my great desire, there is but one condition I would insist upon, namely, that the men and officers surrendered shall be disqualified from taking up arms against the government of the United States until properly exchanged. I will meet you, or will designate officers to meet any officers you may name for the same purpose, at any point agreeable to you, for the purpose of arranging definitely the terms upon which the surrender of the Army of Northern Virginia will be received. Signed, U.S. Grant, Lieutenant General. April 8th, 1865, to Lieutenant General U.S. Grant. General, I received at a late hour your note of today. In mine of yesterday, I did not intend to propose the surrender of the Army of Northern Virginia, but to ask the terms of your proposition. To be frank, I do not think the emergency has arisen to call for the surrender of this army. But as the restoration of peace should be the sole objective of all, I desire to know whether your proposal would lead to that end. I cannot, therefore, meet you with the view to surrender the Army of Northern Virginia. But as far as your proposal may affect the Confederate State forces under my command and tend to the restoration of peace, I shall be pleased to meet you at 10 a.m. tomorrow on the old stage road to Richmond between the picket lines of the two armies. April 9th, 1865, Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. To General Robert E. Lee. General, in accordance with the substance of my letter to you of the 8th instant, I propose to receive the surrender of the Army of Northern Virginia on the following terms, to wit, rolls of all the officers and men to be made in duplicate, one copy to be given to an officer to be designated by me, the other to be retained by such officer or officers as you may designate. The officers to give their individual paroles, not to take up arms against the government of the United States until properly exchanged. And each company or regimental commander sign a like parole for the men of their command. The arms, artillery, and public property to be parked and stacked and turned over to the officers appointed by me to receive them. This will not embrace the sidearms of the officers nor their private horses or baggage. This done, each officer and man will be allowed to return to his home, not to be disturbed by the United States authority so long as they observe their paroles and the laws in force where they may reside. Signed, U.S. Grant, Lieutenant General. I signed it, and General Lee accepted it.